Welcome to this tutorial brought to you by River City Graphics. Today's tutorial is going to be showing you how to generate a random frame using Flash and ActionScript 3. So to get started, we're going to create a ActionScript 3 file. Then I'm going to import some images into the library in order to use them later in the tutorial. So I'm just going to select them and then open them, and they will show up over here in the library. So now what we're going to do is actually create a button to run the gallery, or not the gallery, but the set of images. So what we're going to do is just grab the rectangle tool, set this to like 20, and then that's the corner radius, and then we're going to just drag out a button. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it just needs to work so we can attach ActionScript to it. So I'm going to change the color on that, and then I'm going to add some text to it. Change the color on that too, and we'll call it random. So I'm just going to drag that into the middle of the button. Then we're going to take all that and turn it into a button. So we're going to select it all, hit F8. It's going to bring up this box, convert to a symbol, and we're going to make sure we have button selected, and then we're going to we can just call it random. And then what's really important is this instance name right here. You need to come up to the right corner and you need to put in like random_btn, because that's easy to remember for later when we're coding it. So I'm going to drag that down to the bottom so it's kind of out of the way. So now what we're going to do is actually label these so that we don't get confused. So I'm going to call this layer button, then I'm going to right click on that layer and then insert a layer, and I'm going to do that again. And we'll call one of these ActionScript, so AS, and then another one images. So I'm going to drag the images one to the bottom so that's underneath the random button so that we can actually see the button to click it. So now what I'm going to do is select this frame for the button, copy it, and then paste it out in frame 6 because that's how many images I have, so it'll make sure that that button's on every frame so that you don't get stuck on an image and can't leave the frame. So now what we're going to do is add in the images, and my images are pretty large, so I'm just going to zoom out. And we're going to pull these in. You can see it's very, very large images. So I'm going to scale this down. And I'm just going to center it kind of on the stage. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's obviously not equal to the stage proportions. So I'm just going to try and get it as close as possible and then leave it, just cover up the white of the stage. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a blank keyframe on the next frame, and then I'm going to add an image on that and then keep going on that. So I'm going to pause the video so you guys don't have to watch me continue to scale these images, and I'll see you in a second. Alright, as you can see, I've added an image onto each frame of our little document here so that we can cycle through them randomly. So what we're ready to do next is actually add ActionScript. So I'm going to click on the first layer of our ActionScript layer, or our first frame of our ActionScript layer. Then click on the Actions Frame palette here, and then our first action is actually going to be a stop action. So stop, open close parentheses, semicolon, and that's basically going to just stop it whenever you get to the new frame, so that it doesn't keep zooming through the images, so you have time to look at them. So I'm going to hit enter a couple times. Then we're going to add an event listener to the button we created. So I'm going to put random_button, or BTN, which is the instance name we gave it. That add event listener, and it's a mouse event. So capital M and capital E, that, and then capital all cap click, comma, and then we need to come up with a name for the function. So I'm going to call it choose, because we're choosing a random frame. So close parentheses, semicolon, then hit enter a couple times, and we're going to write the function. So function space choose, open parenthesis, it's an event, colon, it's a mouse event, again capital M and E, close parenthesis, colon, and then void, because we're not returning data, and then an open curly bracket, hit enter a couple times, close curly bracket, up arrow key twice, I guess. And now what we're going to do is write some variables in order to run the random frame math, basically. So we're going to write var space, and then I'm going to call this one pic number because it's basically the number of pictures. then space, colon, space, and then it's going to be a number with a capital N, space equals space, and then I'm going to put how many pictures I have, and since I have 6 pictures, I'm just going to write 6 and then a colon, or a semicolon, and then I'm going to hit enter, and we're going to make another variable. This one's going to be var space, and then we're just going to call it random frame, and then colon, and it's also a number with a capital N, and then space equals space, and then we're going to write our math, which math dot seal, and the seal basically rounds up the number, and then I'm going to have parentheses within the parentheses. You can have it say floor, which I think is round down, and there's some other ones that you can use, but we're using the round up function for this. Because we don't, if it's a decimal, we don't want it to round down to 0 because there is no 0 frame. So that would be a problem. So we want to make sure it rounds up. So I'm going to put math dot random, which is the random function within ActionScript, and then we're going to multiply that with the little asterisk by the number of picks. So pick underscore number, and that's going to give us our random number, and then it's going to round that up. It's basically a random number within 6, so it's anything from like 0 to 6, and that's going to round it up. So I'm going to hit enter again, and what we're going to do so that you guys can kind of see what's happening, I'm going to actually trace out this statement. So I'm going to press or type in trace and then parenthesis random frame. And trace is a good thing to use in documents like where you need to see what's happening, because if you have a problem, it's easier to diagnose it if you can tell where it's happening. So if you can trace a word or a variable or something like that, it might be easier for you to determine the problem. So I'm using that just so you guys can see what it does, and it's pretty helpful in this. So I'm going to hit enter again, and then we actually need, basically once you click on the button, we want it to do something. So it's actually going to run this variable, which is random frame. So we're going to say go to and then we're going to say stop so it doesn't play through them. Go to and stop, and then random frame, close parenthesis, semicolon. So now it should be working. Let's do control test movie. It's making the SWF. It's exporting it. Alright, so you can see it seems to be working okay. We didn't get any immediate errors. And then we're going to click on this, and you can see over here in the trace, which is, it goes to output, that's what trace does. You can see that it chose the number 3 from that math, and then it went to frame 3, and now it went to 2, 5, 6, 6, 6 again, 5, 1, and you can see that it randomly goes through all of the images. I mean, it doesn't really have a set path. So you can see where this could be easily used for some documents. If you wanted to start an image gallery on a random image so that every time users come to your site it doesn't look the same, you'll have a different image, or you want to use it for a game so that they get like a random drop or something along the lines of that. It's basically, there's a lot of different applications for this. So if you wanted to use it, that's basically how you can get started making the generator. So I hope you guys learned some stuff in this tutorial about ActionScript 3 and random frames. If you want the ActionScript code for this, it'll be on my website. And I hope that you guys subscribe, rate, and comment, and I'll see you next week. Thanks.